Hey, what's up guys? Today I am going to play my normal 1-2 game and it gets a little crazy. We get some bluffs, we get some pots, and then I go card dead for a bit. But anyways, let's get into the hands and show you guys what happens. Alright guys, so I am fighting a little bit of a cold, so please excuse my voice if it sounds a little bit off. Anyways, let's get in the hand. I look down and see 10-7 suited. I call for $2, hijack cutoff call, small blind calls, and the big blind check. So we are going 5 ways to the flop, and the flop isn't too bad when it comes out ace 7 10 rainbow. That's right, we flop bottom 2 pair on a board where someone could have an ace. I mean, everyone limps, so, someone may have a weak ace. But anyways, I lead out for pot because with 2 pair, it's time to start building and getting some money in there. The hijack and the cutoff call, the small and big blind eventually do fold. Turn comes along, and it's actually a pretty good turn as well. It's the 8 of diamonds, so it gives us the flush draw along with our 2 pair. With that strong of a turn card, I don't really think it's giving anyone a straight. I don't think people are chasing like a gut shot, so I lead out for pot again. The really only thing we're behind is like ace 8, I suppose at this point, maybe 10-8, I guess. But other than that, I don't think anyone has sets. I don't think anyone has anything like that. The hijack folds and the cutoff ships it all in for $100. He actually just shoved his red chips out there and then he said all in. So the dealer gave him his white chips back. I make the call for $100. He only has like less than $10 in white chips, so it just kind of is what it is. I don't know. It's one of those weird spots where a player meant to go all in and the dealer's like, hey, you didn't say it. So I get both perspectives. Anyways, the river is the queen of hearts. He flips over his cards. He shows ace king. I let him know we have 10-7 2 pair, and we scoop a $240 pot. This is the problem with slow playing your big hands. I mean, ace king's an amazing hand. Nothing wrong with slow playing, but when you're going 5 ways to a flop and it's just limped around, a lot of people can have a sneaky 2 pair. Let's move on to the next hand though. Alright guys, in the next hand we'd look down from the small blind at the ace 10 offsuit. Now the game had just gotten started. This was probably about, I don't know, 10 hands into the game or something like that. So I raise it up to $15 and people are wanting to play. They just got there, so the big blind calls, the under the gun calls. It does fold around to the button though, luckily, and then the button makes the call as well. So we're going 4 ways to this flop, which is 7 jack queen all spades. So we have the 3rd nut flush draw, and we also have a king will give us the straight. So I think it's a good board to lead out on. I bet 20 the big blind calls, and the under the gun player decides he's gonna go all in for $21. That's right, he has $1 extra. Of course, the 2 of us make the call for an extra $1, and we are going heads up to a turn with 1 player all in. And the turn is, about the best I could ask for. It is the bink king of spades. That's right, we have the 2nd nuts in an open-ended straight / royal flush draw. I check it to her in case she has the nuts. She bets 20, I call. And the river is a board pairing queen of clubs. Once again, I don't think there's any reason for me to bet here. If I bet and get raised, I'm just hating my life. So I check. She quickly checks it behind. I let everyone know we have the queen of spades. She did have a smaller flush, and the player that went all in had king jack, so he turned 2 pair and had outs. Luckily, that queen paired and not his king or jack. So now I am scooping this $163 pot. Not the biggest, but trust me, they do get larger. On to the next hand. Alright guys, for the next hand we're playing a pot limit Omaha. We look down and see 9-4 king queen double suited. This hand has a lot of playability. The king queen 9's connected. We also have 2 suited. Granted, it's not the nut suit, so that could be problematic, but we'll cross that bridge when we get there. There's a $5 button straddle. I make the call, the player to my left folds, and it gets around to the middle position. In the middle position, +1 players. They seem to like their cards enough to want to throw in $5, so that is exactly what they do. Player folds, and it gets around to the hijack. Now, this is a young buck player who has evil intentions. He wants to juice up this pot, so he raises it to $15. In pot limit Omaha, he could have raised it to, I think, 30 with how many callers we have, but he decided just to bump it up to 15, which is going to get everyone to call, including the button straddle. So, yep, that's right. We are now going to a slightly bloated pot 5 ways, which in Omaha can get crazy really fast. Luckily for us, the board is somewhat good when it comes out. 5, 6, 7. Now I know what you're thinking. That does not connect with our hand at all. Yes and no. We have the 4, which blocks the straight, and we have the 9, which blocks the nut straight. We also have a queen high flush draw, which once again is not the nuts, but it's enough to continue for at least one bet and see what happens. The hijack ends up betting $40. The button folds and gets out of the way. I make the call. The person to my left, the middle position player, does end up deciding to fold, and the middle position 1 player takes their time in deciding what they want to do, which is the perfect opportunity for me to let you guys know that 82% of you are not subscribed. That's right, 17.8% are. It's been going up. Thank you so much. If you're not, please do me a favor. Drop a sub down below. It's free to do. Doesn't cost you anything. Trying to get the channel to 1,000 subs so it can get monetized and I can make 25 cents per video to make up for all my bad play. I should have my money recouped in about 1 million years. So thank you guys very much. And yeah, let's get back to the hand. All right, so the middle position player finally decides that they are going to actually continue with this hand. This is a long tank for $40. I'm not gonna lie to you guys. I feel like it took forever, but he eventually makes the call, bloating the pot up to $195, and we are going 3 ways to this turn, which is the 3 of clubs. I end up checking. Now, guys, it is Omaha, so 2 cards have to play. Even though we have that 4, we do not have a straight, but when it checks through and the 8 of clubs comes, I think this is a perfect opportunity to bet at this pot since no one seems too interested. We do have the 9, which blocks the 9-10 for the nut straight. We also have the 4, which blocks for the straight 2. So with those 2 blockers in mind, I lead out for $120, hoping that it will be enough to take this pot down and make the other opponents fold. The middle position plus 1 player, per usual, goes into the tank for a little bit, but not too long this time. Luckily, he does relinquish his cards, and now we get to the player I was actually worried about, the player that may have a hand, the cutoff player. I'm sorry, the hijack player. So he goes into the tank, and I'm just obviously praying for a fold. Luckily, that's exactly what he gets. He folds reluctantly. We take down this $195 pot with king, queen, high. Let's go. Yeah, it's nothing quite like getting a bluff through in poker, especially on an Omaha hand. It always feels good. Anyways, I have $5 on the button for this hand. We look down and see pocket 6s. Not a bad hand to have on the button, considering I'd been straddling all night looking at 7 deuce offsuit. It was a pretty rough night. I was kind of card dead, guys. I'm not going to lie to you. Anyways, 3 people end up calling. I check because there's no reason to bloat the pot with pocket 6s. It's not like I'm going to flop a set. Well, I'll be damned. Ace 6 7 is the flop. I flop bottom set. I'm untouchable tonight. It feels good. Middle position bets out for $10. I just make the smooth call because people were playing a little bit tighter and folding, and I didn't want to run off the action. He didn't have a whole lot behind, like 160, so I felt like I could reasonably get that in by the end of the hand without raising. Anyways, turn comes 8 of hearts. He checks. I bet $30. He makes the call, and we are still going heads up to this river, which is the Bink 8 of diamonds. That's right, we river a full house. There is nothing to worry about in this hand. He checks it to me. I bet 100. I didn't notice he had 15 more dollars. He had some white chips behind. So eventually, after thinking, he does eventually say all in, the magic words, and I make the snap call, obviously, and we win the pot with 6s full, taking down $230. Like I said, I didn't see his white chips, so I should have just said all in, but it is what it is. He announced all in, so I do end up scooping all the chips and winning this pot. Let's move on to the next one, which is a doozy. It's a big one, guys. You're going to like it. On to the next hand. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the biggest hand of the night, but not the final hand. We still have one hand after this. So second to last hand is a double board Omaha bomb pot. We have 9-9-3-4 with 9-3 of spades. Top flop is 9 Jack 6. Bottom flop is 6-3-3. So we flop a set on one and we flop trips on the other. With that being said, I am first to act and I lead out for $25. It's around a half pot bet, and I think it's a good enough thing to keep some draws in, like hearts, open-ended up top, things like that. You know, diamond draws are going to stick around. So the hijack calls, the under the gun calls, the button calls, there are a lot of callers, basically, is what you need to know. 185. I actually think the dealer messed up on this. I think there's 175, and the reason I'm saying that is because the turns are deuce of clubs and jack of diamonds. Now, the only thing beating me on the top board
are pocket jacks. And if someone has pocket jacks, they have a boat on bottom, they have the final 2 jacks. Anyways, I potted it. Dealer says 185. I think it's 175, but it is what it is. I put 185 out there, and for some reason I had trouble doing it. I don't know why. I think I put like I put 160, and he was like, hey, you need to put in more money. That's not enough. And I'm like, oh, how does addition and simple mathematics work? And he's like, buddy, I can't do that for you. You bet pot, you need to put in more money. So I corrected there, threw in some more red birds. He was like, okay, now that's too much. You still don't know how to math. Here's your change, okay? I'm going to get it right because you're incompetent. Here you go. Take that back. Now the pot's right. All right, cool. Pot's right. Going back to the hand, I basically have the second nuts up top, and once again, if someone has the nuts, then they have the final 2 jacks, and they're just going to win a big pot. It just is what it is. I'm also beat by pocket 6s on bottom, or jack 3 or 6-3, but once again, me having a 3 limits those combinations, and I'm mainly betting on the top. I'm hoping I win the top board, and I get to chop with someone who may have the bottom. So I bet 185, under the gun calls. It folds around slowly but surely. The player over there in mill position is showing his cards to his friend. He's like, look what I have. Look what I have. You know those players. They're like, oh my God, look, everybody, look at my cards. All right. I mean, what are you going to do? Are you going to fold? We all know those players. He passes them to the player across the table. This has to be a fold at this point. Like, you can't show half the table of your cards. I mean, showing your buddies next to you, I've done it too. We've all done it. But this dude, he went around the world with his dang cards. Everyone knows what he has. It's crazy. So eventually he does make the fold, luckily, because that was wild. Button calls, and we are going 3 ways to the rivers. And as the dealer gets the pot right, I am just praying for no diamond up top, no heart or diamond down below. And bink, 8 of diamonds up top, 7 of spades down below. So we don't boat up on either board, unfortunately. Kind of sucks to flop a set and flop trips and not boat up on either board. That being said, I do decide that the best thing to do is to check here. The under the gun player goes all in for $95. Now we're just waiting on the button to act, and I'm just hoping he doesn't raise. I'm hoping he doesn't pot because I've got a few hundred behind still, and if he pots, I'm really not in a great situation. Straights beat me up top, flushes beat me up top. I mean, it's really just a bluff catcher at this point if he repots. And my 3 on bottom with a 9 kicker is just not good either. It's pot limit Omaha. Like, these may sound like good hands in Hold'em, but in this game, once again, I simply have bluff catchers. Now, for $95, I can't fold. So luckily the button did decide to fold, and of course I'm going to make the call for 95. I don't think that the opponent can scoop too often. Now, fading 2 players is different than just heads up. So I snap call the 95. Pot's $930, and I show my cards. She shows hers first. I let her know that she is in fact getting scooped. I have a set of 9s up top and trips on the bottom. She had a jack on each board, but did not have any boats. So somehow we faded the straight. Somehow we faded the flush, and I am scooping in this $930 pot. Let's freaking go. All right, guys, let's go on to the final hand of the night. It is that time. It is the final hand of the session. I look down and see ace jack offsuit. A beautiful starting hand, and as you can see, I have colored up, and I am now shuffling black chips. There's around 6 of them in there, so 600 plus the card protector. Got about 700 black chips. Feels pretty good, not gonna lie. And I have a whole stack of greens as well as some reds, so feeling pretty good here at the end of the night. Decide to raise it up here on the cutoff to $15. Get some respect because, once again, I just wasn't playing a lot of hands. I was very card dead. After the last hand, I think it was an hour until I played this hand. I mean, it was just extreme card death. Now, the hands I played, I got lucky and 1 big pots on, so that's always good. Anyways, big blind calls, mill position calls, mill position plus 1 calls as well. We're going 4 ways to this flop, which is bink for jack 9 with 2 hearts. So I flop top pair, top kicker, and I do have the ace of hearts for runner flush possibilities if needed. Big blind leads out for $25. Mill position decides to tag along and make a call, and I think this is someone setting their price. So I decided to raise it up. It's a draw heavy board. I have top. If someone has jack 9, if someone has pocket 9s, pocket 4s, then they're just going to get a big pot. They're going to get double up. I mean, this is a very wet board. I flopped extremely well, and I want to charge them if they're trying to draw out on me. That's the bottom line. Sometimes you're going to run into it, but I think this is a very good play, and I think this is called for with, once again, how wet the board is. You know, queen 10s, all that stuff. Middle position decides to go all in for 191. Big blind did get out of the way. I ask for a count. He does let me know how much it is, and of course, I'm making the call for $91 more. We discuss how many times we would like to go. I tell him it's up to him. He says it's up to me. I said, okay, well, if it's up to me, I'd like to rip. He says, no, wait, let's go 3. So I'm like, all right, well, then you just should have said so when I asked the first time. But that's how it goes sometimes. People are like, I don't care. And then when you say rip, they're like, just kidding, I care. So at this point, I'm like, okay, I don't want to see a king. I don't want to see an 8. I don't want to see straight cards. I want to see a heart. Of course, 8 of hearts peels off on the top board, queen of hearts on the bottom board, and a king on the bottom board. Sorry, queen of hearts on the middle board. Luckily for me, he flips over his cards and shows ace 9. So I guess he put me on a draw and just thought I didn't have a jack. And, you know, ace 9 versus ace jack, he was drawing very thin at that point. So I end up scooping a $467 pot to end the night. Let's go to the outro and see how much money was made. All right, guys, I was in the game for 300, cashed out for 1,500, so that's 1,200 in profit. Not a bad night at the poker table. Appreciate all the love and support. Make sure to like and subscribe if you haven't already. And I'll catch you guys on the next video.